Where are you heading? Elizabeth glanced in the mirror at her husband Mike approaching from behind and flinched. His gaze was intense, reminiscent of a predator. Her hand twitched and the comb painfully yanked out a few strands of her light brown hair. "Mike, I was just heading to the store," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "You were there this morning when you dropped Vicky off at preschool?" Mike replied, "You asked me to make a beet salad today, and we're out of beets." "You didn't run out of beets just today. You know I love that salad. You could have bought it in advance, or did you need an excuse to go out again? Eh? God, what nonsense are you talking?" Of course, Elizabeth didn't dare say this aloud. Her husband was so close, his breathing heavy, it stifled. "So, I shouldn't go?" she whispered, barely audible. Mike stared into his wife's eyes for a long moment, then said slowly, "We'll go together, but first, think about what else you might have forgotten." In silence, Elizabeth walked through the mall alongside her husband, carrying a grocery bag, thinking about how eagerly she awaited the end of his vacation. No, he was a good husband, just a real workaholic, stressed from being idle at home. But honestly, this constant surveillance was beginning to exhaust her. Sure, there was a tracker on her phone and Mike could track her anywhere, but she wished she could just go to the store nearby without having to ask permission or explain why a trip took longer if there was a queue or just one cashier. Near the entrance of a women's clothing store was a mannequin dressed in a stunning dress. Lisa stopped to admire it. She rarely wore dresses, and there were few occasions to do so. But this dress was perfect. Her favorite color, vibrant emerald, and the cut was so flattering. It was something she could wear every day, yet still feel special and at a party. How she longed to try it on, and it looked to be her size. "What's got you rooted to the spot?" Mike, having caught up with Lisa, glanced at his watch with impatience. "Mike, look at this beautiful dress. Can I try it on?" "I'll be quick." "And where would you wear it?" "To play in the sandbox with the kid?" Mike said mockingly. "No special events coming up, and you have enough to wear. Stop this nonsense, let's go. You still have dinner to prepare." Elizabeth looked regretfully at the dress, sighed, and was about to leave when she heard rapid footsteps and an astonished voice. "Liz, hello." Turning around, she saw her former classmate, Samantha, smiling brightly. They had been friends once, but after high school, their paths diverged. Elizabeth stayed in their hometown, attended a local college, and got married, while Samantha moved to Concord, New York. "Wow, Sam, hi. It's been so long. What, 6 years?" "Almost 7. How are you doing?" "Good, and you? Are you in town for long, visiting family?" "Not sure yet. Maybe for a while. I hope I'm not interrupting. Are you?" "Actually, I was just convincing my wife to try on something nice, but she's being stubborn." Mike chimed in unexpectedly, his smile wide. "Liz, are you going to try on the dress or not?" Elizabeth was taken aback, looking at her husband in astonishment. His previously stern demeanor had vanished, replaced by a friendly and gracious attitude. "Go for it, girl. Seize the opportunity," laughed Samantha. "It looks like it's made for you. Let's head to the fitting room. I'll help you." Before she knew it, Elizabeth was standing with her husband and classmate at the checkout, watching a polite saleswoman pack her dream dress into an elegant bag. The price was steep, and she watched in astonishment as Mike paid for the dress. All smiles. Sam winked at her friend and said, "Congrats on the new dress, Liz. Now, you've got to find an occasion to wear it. Listen, I've got to run. Liz, give me your number. We should catch up sometime. It's been... Elizabeth hesitantly recited her phone number to Samantha and turned to her husband. Mike, with a charming smile, bid farewell to his wife's friend and, taking Elizabeth's hand, led her towards the exit. Back at home, Elizabeth tried on the dress again, admiring her reflection in the mirror. She thought she should thank Mike for such a gift. Perhaps she had been too harsh on him. He was just cooped up at home too long. A walk outside, some fresh air, and here he was again. Her caring, sweet Mike. Smiling, Elizabeth entered the living room where Mike sat on the couch, idly flicking through TV channels. She sat next to him and, with a sly grin, said, "Thank you, my dear, for the gift. You know, I think I should meet friends in stores more often. It seems to bring out the best in you." Mike turned his head and stared at her intently. Elizabeth's smile faded under his scrutinizing gaze. "Have you suddenly developed a sense of humor? Or forgotten why we went to the store? Take off that dress and get to the kitchen. You still have to pick up Vicky from daycare." Elizabeth lowered her eyes, slowly rose from the couch, and walked towards the door. The fairy tale was over before it even began. "Hi Liz, how are you? What are you up to?" Samantha's cheerful voice rang from the phone. "Hi Sam, just busy with housework. What about you?" "I'm great. Hey, how about we catch up and chat? Today?" "Why not? I'm over then." Mike just went back to work after his vacation, so no one's home, and my mom will pick up Vicky today. "Really? Your husband won't mind?" He seemed so sociable and fun. Elizabeth remained silent, unsure of what to say. "Okay, tell me your address. I'll swing by after lunch." "Your place looks great, so spacious." "And the decor is beautiful," Samantha remarked, setting her teacup down. "Are you guys renting?" "No, it's Mike's place. He's done well for himself." "Hey Liz, how about something stronger than tea to celebrate our reunion? We haven't talked in ages. Let's walk to the store." Sam, I'm not sure. Mike might not be pleased." "Oh, come on, don't blame everything on your husband. Let's go. Remember how you were at prom?" "Not really into it." Sam giggled and stood up. "Come on, get dressed. Why waste time?" Reluctantly, Elizabeth got up from the sofa. Really, what was the harm? Meeting an old friend once in a blue moon, and they'd be staying home anyway, not out and about. Returning to the apartment after their extended shopping trip, Elizabeth checked the time. Their mall walk had unintentionally stretched to over 2.5 hours. Seeing 6 missed calls from Mike, how did 20 minutes turn into so long? Like trembling hands, she unlocked the door, realizing it wasn't bolted. Mike was already home. Had he left work early because he couldn't reach her? The thought of facing a scene in front of Samantha embarrassed her. Mike stood in the hallway. Crossing the threshold, Elizabeth caught his furious glare and noticed his hand clenched into a fist. Then, seeing Samantha behind her, his expression transformed into a smile. "Mike, why are you home so early?" Elizabeth asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Not much work today," he replied, and Elizabeth caught a fleeting glimpse of aggression as his eyes quickly swept over her petite figure in the new dress. "We decided to celebrate our reunion," Samantha chimed in cheerfully. "Will you join us? Can't refuse such lovely ladies, especially on a Friday," Mike sang in whisper. Elizabeth moved on shaky legs to the living room. There was no scene, but it didn't comfort her. The image of Mike's hate-filled glare and tightly clenched fist haunted her. What if she had come home alone? The evening passed merrily and ended quite late. After seeing off their guest and ensuring she got into a taxi, the couple returned home. Elizabeth sat silently on the sofa. Mike sat beside her, arms crossed. "I'm listening, Liz. What should I say?" She looked up at him timidly. His friendly facade had disappeared. His narrowed eyes burned with anger. "Don't pretend. I can't stand that. You ignored my calls for an hour and a half. You dared to buy alcohol without asking me. I didn't hear the calls. The music in the mall was loud. And you know, in this country, you can buy alcohol from 18 without permission," Elizabeth replied, surprising herself with her boldness. Seeing Mike raise his hand, she tightly shut her eyes, but the blow didn't come. Knocking over a glass of unfinished red wine, he swore, stood up, and went to the bathroom to clean his stained trousers. Elizabeth jumped from the sofa. Something inside her said not to wait for him to come back. Grabbing her purse and phone, she quickly slipped her feet into sneakers, grabbed a jacket from the rack, and quietly unlocked the door, stepping out of the apartment. Her heart pounded in her throat, making it hard to breathe. She ran down the stairs and out of the building, heading towards the taxi stand near the store. Jumping into the only waiting car, Elizabeth leaned back, trying to catch her breath. She only calmed down when standing at her mother's apartment door. "Liz, have you lost your mind?" her mother exclaimed, pouring hot tea into large, round mugs, while Elizabeth sat silently at the kitchen table, running away from such a husband. "What kind of husband, Mom?" "A golden one, Liz. He earns well, fully supports you, doesn't make you work, adores your daughter. What more do you want?" "Mom, I wanted to work, and I still do, but Mike flatly refuses to let me. I feel like his prisoner. Do you even know what slavery is, darling? You're living a life of luxury, yet you're always unhappy." He was about to hit me, Mom. Firstly, he didn't. Secondly, maybe he had a reason to be angry. You should be grateful for such a husband, and I never saw him treat you badly when I visited. You're making a fuss over nothing. Elizabeth stared at a faint scratch on the table, frozen. She had come to her mother for support, but only found blame. "I'll call Mike. Tell him you're here, and you better think of how to apologize." "No, Mom, please don't," Elizabeth flinched. "I'll go home myself. It's nearly midnight. How will you go?" "Let me call him. I'll take a taxi." "Thanks for the tea, Mom. Kiss Vicky for me. I'll pick her up on Sunday, as planned." Elizabeth left the building and dragged herself to a nearby bench. Tears streamed down her face. She had no idea what to do. Just 2 hours earlier, she thought her mother would support and protect her, but it all turned out so differently. She remembered how her mother, while her father was still alive, tiptoed around the house, trying not to catch his eye. Everything at home was decided by him. Her mother never dared to contradict him and was mostly silent, naturally. She rarely went out and spent most of her time with household chores and raising her daughter. Her father had always been very tender with Elizabeth, so she never paid much attention to her parents' relationship. Now, as her mother pleaded with her to be silent and endure for the sake of keeping the family together, the pieces fell into place. Endure? For how long? Like her mother, until her father's death. Wait for her husband to die. She might not live to see that day. Elizabeth shook her head and wiped away her tears. She had no other role model, but she refused to live in perpetual, silent endurance. But what to do now? She had hardly any money in her purse. Mike only gave her enough for groceries and demanded receipt. She couldn't even afford a room in a cheap motel. let alone an apartment or a job. There was nowhere to go. Returning was out of the question. Tears flowed again as she sobbed loudly. "Can I help you with anything?" Elizabeth turned in alarm. A thin man in glasses had approached. "Don't be afraid, please. I just want to help. You're crying so much." The stranger carefully sat on the edge of the bench. Elizabeth looked into his kind eyes and, unexpectedly, poured out her heart to this complete stranger. About her handsome husband, who turned out to be a tyrant, about her mother, who refused to understand her, about having nowhere to go, though she had a young daughter. What a story. "And how did you, Liz, end up with this couch?" But the new acquaintance looked thoughtful and decisively said, "You can't spend the night on a bench. You'll freeze. Here's what we'll do. I won't invite you to my place, so you don't get the wrong idea. You'll stay in a motel tonight, and tomorrow we'll figure something out." Catching Elizabeth's bewildered look, the man reassured her, "I'll pay, don't worry. Accept the offer. This isn't the time to be stubborn. Looks like it might rain soon." Elizabeth felt awkward, but lacked the strength to argue, especially with her head pounding from stress. She finally asked, "What's your name?" "Sorry, I should have asked earlier, but I've been so preoccupied." "Roman. Just call me Roman." "Have a good night, Elizabeth." Elizabeth stepped off the bus and walked towards her home. She liked getting off a stop early to walk a couple of miles, clearing her head after a day's work. Strolling down the street, she suddenly recognized a familiar face. Samantha. "Hi." Sam, startled, stopped in her tracks. "Hi, Liz." Elizabeth examined her former classmate in surprise. They hadn't seen each other since Elizabeth's divorce when Sam had married Mike. But now, only 5 years later, Sam looked drastically different. Once lively and radiant, she now seemed faded. Her face pale and body hunched, dressed in baggy, long-sleeved clothes. "Sam, how have you been? What are you up to?" "Working." "No, I'm not working. My daughter's 3, and I'm rushing to pick her up from daycare. Then I need to make dinner. Liz, maybe we can talk another time. I really have to run." As Sam brushed her hair from her forehead, her sleeve slid up, revealing dark bruises on her wrist. Catching Elizabeth's gaze, she quickly pulled the sleeve down and, muttering a quick goodbye, hurried away. As Elizabeth slowly walked home, her mind racing. "Thank God I had the courage to leave back then," she thought, feeling a sharp pang of sympathy. She pulled out her phone, found Samantha's contact, and sent a message, hoping her friend hadn't yet returned to her husband. "Sam, if you ever need help, just know I'm here for you." After sending the text, Elizabeth took a deep breath of the evening air and hurried home, where 2 of her favorite men, her son Vicky and her husband Roman, were waiting